Returning to the show, we're very excited. Ryan, why don't you do the honors since he's a family friend?
U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer, 1994 Stanley Cup champion with the New York Rangers, commentator for TNT with the Seattle Kraken as well, 16-year NHL veteran, Eddie Olczyk.
Eddie Olczyk is here. Yay, we're very happy to have Eddie back. Look at this full screen. Eddie, what's happening?
How are you, Frank, Rye? Jeff, nice to be with you guys. Hope you're doing well. And in my little world, because it is all about me, no better time in the world than pucks and ponies right now. I mean, we got Stanley Cup Finals starting on Saturday night. I'm off. My vacation has started. ESPN, my friends over at ESPN have the Stanley Cup Final, and us at TNT, our season's over because we did the Western Conference between Dallas and Edmonton. So I'm headed to Belmont for the Belmont at Saratoga tomorrow. So I'll be on site as a fan for the first time in a long time at a big horse racing event. So nice to be with you guys. And Pucks and Ponies weekend, not too bad. And oh, by the way, a little tease for everybody. There is a Pucks and Ponies tie-in to this important weekend before Game 1 of the Cup Final and the running of the Belmont at Saratoga this weekend. So stay tuned.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so with the Belmont being at Saratoga, they are going to be running a shorter distance, right? It's not going to be the normal Belmont distance.
Yeah.
So they're running the Derby distance. Does that make a difference to take a shot on Mystic Dan to win that same kind of race?
Yeah, I mean, they're running 1.25 miles, right? For people that may not know, usually when they do run the race at Belmont, it's 1.5 miles. So obviously they're going a little shorter. But a lot of these horses have run in a Kentucky Derby. I mean, look, you have the Kentucky Derby. You mentioned Mystic Dan, who ran second in the Preakness. You got the Preakness winner in Seize the Gray, which will be breaking from post position 1. Will be running on Saturday as well. You have a horse by the name of Dornock, who I think really needs to be close to the lead in order to have any shot to win this race. He ended up running 10th in the Kentucky Derby from post position number 1. You have Honor Marie running from the Derby, who ran 8th and finished 13th, and Sierra Leone, who finished 2nd in the Kentucky Derby, will be the post-time favorite. So it's an absolutely wide open race, but a lot of these horses, I'd say the majority of them probably won't run 1.25 miles again in their life, and they're doing it 2 times in a matter of about 5 weeks. So I think it's an absolutely wide open race, and Mystic Dan will be on my tickets, but he's not going to be my pick on Saturday, that's for sure.
So talking about Sierra Leone, probably closing the post-time favorite, she has they have a different rider this time around, right? So does that make a difference being in the final race of the Triple Crown?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't like that Flavien Prat, who is one of the top jockeys in the world, let alone in the U.S., is going to jump on for Tyler Gaffalione, who is one of the top riders. And it's a different move because Tyler Gaffalione has ridden this horse for the last 3 races and has 2 wins and had the second and probably got beat this much in the Kentucky Derby. Didn't have the greatest trip. The horse was kind of lugging in with the Japanese horse that was to the inside of Sierra Leone. And trader Chad Brown decides to make a rider change. So I think this horse has that ability to be able to want to lug in getting, if the horse is outside, wants to kind of pressure in and make it a little bit more difficult to ride. So I trust Chad Brown, the trainer's decision here. But I don't think there's much of a drop off when you look at Gaffalione and Pratt. And, you have to use a 9 horse for sure. Sierra Leone, you definitely have to use just because of the running style. I mentioned the horses. I think there's a lot of pace in this race. I think they're going to go relatively quick and just go inside horse racing if I can. If you're watching the race on Saturday, wherever you're watching it from, but the race will be on Fox on Big Fox on Saturday. If you hear Frank Miramati, who's the voice of Saratoga, if you hear him say, he'll give all kinds of numbers when they're running at times. When you hear him say 6 furlongs in or 3/4 mile in, if they're running in 1 minute and 10 and 2/5, or if they're in that minute and 10-second range or faster, the chances of any of those horses holding on will probably be a lot less. Now, if they go 1:11 in 2, 111 and 3, 112, and it's going to make it much more difficult for the horses to come from behind. So I think that threshold is a minute and 10 and 2/5. If they run that number or faster or lower, then I think the horses that come from off the pace or deeper will have a bigger chance. And I think that's what the 9-horse favorite Sierra Leone is probably hoping for. The faster they go, the better for the 9-horse to pick up the pieces and win the running of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga on Saturday.
All right, so that's when we can do an in-race bet, right? At 1 minute. That'll be the next thing someday, right?
Well, yeah, I guess being a Chicago guy and in watching the Cubs and White Sox the last couple of nights and going, in game, getting your feet wet was very advantageous if you took the Northsiders when they were down 5-0 and 5-1 in both games, and you probably turned a nice little profit there if you played the in game and taking a team that was down by 4 and 5 runs.
But Jeff was saying it was shockingly low.
It was down 5-0 in the first game, Eddie. It was just only plus 240.
Right.
It's usually a down 2-0 price, which is just showing how bad the White Sox are.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of guys, they screenshotted me or whatever, and then I think a couple of guys had gotten, again, now, depending on maybe there were outs in the inning or whenever it ended up getting to that, but I know a couple of guys that got north of plus 380 and even as high as 395. So, again, I mean, timing is everything, and you have so many different outlets, obviously, right, to take your chances. But, I think the White Sox, I saw some numbers this morning, when they do get 2+ run leads, it's not been very good. I know they're on unfortunately on a bad streak right now. But if you're into that type of thing, you've made a few bucks here in the last couple of days. That's for sure.
I just want to go back to the Belmont real quick. I was watching the Preakness. I studied the program. I'm listening to experts. I'm taking it all in. My girlfriend goes, I like the gray horse. So we bet the gray horse, and the gray horse won. And so all my mathematics and all my studying went out the window. But Seize the Gray right now is around 8-1. What do you think of Seize the Gray?
Well, unfortunately for me in the Preakness, I took the other D. Wayne Lucas, who's the trainer of Seize the Gray. And Seize the Gray went wire to wire. I was a little surprised he was going to be able to go wire to wire, which, at the end of the day, the track was muddy and, look, all props to him. So he's coming back again in the 3 weeks. He's bred to go to the distances. His sire, Arrogate, was a long-distance horse and won the Travers and the fastest running of the Travers, a race at Saratoga, and I believe it's in August in the history of the running. So going to be certainly forward to the place, but I don't think that Seize the Gray is going to get his way. I'm not going to use him in my top 3, but I think that you will, if you like Seize the Gray, he's going to get some calls really early. So I guess, why don't I just do it? I'm going to give you my selections on Saturday. I'm going to go the horse, and then I'll tie in the Stanley Cup and the horse racing tie for the Belmont. I'm going to go with the 10-horse Mindframe, who is has only run 2 career races. The horse did run on Derby Day, but in a lower classified race that day and ran off the screen. 2 career races, is won by a total of 20.5 lengths. I think the horse is tactical. The horse is bred to go to the distance, meaning tactical. The horse can sit off of the pace, right? Because I see the 1 has speed. Mystic Dan, the Derby favorite, is going to be really close. To me, the whole key to the race is the 6 Dornoch. If you hear Dornoch up on the lead or putting pressure on Seize the Gray, I think that's a really good thing. The Wine Stewart is another horse that has a lot of speed. So I'm looking for a horse that can be tactical. Breaking from post position, number 10, Mindframe, I don't mind that at all. I think plenty of time to save some ground and get position. So all of my picks are going to be with the number 10 Mindframe. Right now, 7-2 morning line. I think probably going to be more like 4-1, which is obviously great. So a lot of my plays are going to be with the 9 Sierra Leone because I think the 9's going to come rolling. So I'm going to play 9-10, 10-9 in my exactas. I'm going to play a 10-9-2-3, 10-9-3-2 when it comes to my trifectas. Long shot play will be the 2 Rinse. Made a big middle move, actually, in the Kentucky Derby. If you go back and watch the race, horse went, and he broke from post position, easy for me to say, 18 out of 20, and made a big move, and halfway through the race actually got to within a length of the lead and then looked like me playing in a game back in 1988 or 89 where lactic acid just set in and just absolutely the horse backed up and ended up finishing sixth, but not a bad sixth, to be honest with you. So 10-1 in the morning line. So my numbers are 10, 9, 2, 3. My pick will be the 10. Now the tie-in. The owners of the ownership group of the 10 Mindframe is Mike Rapoli, and he invented vitamin water, just for anybody that doesn't know that. And he sold it to Coca-Cola, I think, for $85 billion or whatever. But so he's doing fine. But the co-owners of Mindframe are Vinny and Teresa Viola, St. Elias Stable. They run under that stable name. So Vinny and Teresa Viola have a horse running in the Belmont Stakes on Saturday night at 6:40 Eastern Time. At 8:15 Eastern, their team, the team they own, the Florida Panthers, will be playing in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final against the Edmonton Oilers. So you talk about the ultimate daily double.
Oh, wow.
Win the Belmont, and win Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. And obviously, they have bigger fish to fry, so to speak, and wanting to win the Stanley Cup. But how about that 3.5 hours there? Oh, we got a horse running in a Belmont and has a legitimate chance to win. And we got a chance to win Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. I think if you played a little parlay, if you bet 100 to win on Mindframe, you'll probably be getting back I think you're probably going to get back in that 420, 430 range, which is a nice little return. And if you want to go ahead and parlay it all on the Florida Panthers, you might turn that into about 700. So 7-1 on Mindframe winning the Belmont, and the Florida Panthers winning that game outright in Game 1. So that's your hockey
Awesome.
and horse racing, your pucks and ponies tie-in.
That
Good
is
luck to
awesome.
Violas. And by the way, they are terrific. They are terrific people, and glad to call them friends as well.
By the way, Vinny Viola, is that his name?
Yes, it is. He's got a guy, and he's got another guy. So
Look, I'm Italian. I'm Nicotero. Vinny Viola. I'm doing this bet just because of the name Vinny Viola. My God, I love that.
Oh yeah. Look. Hey, I'm being totally honest. Like if you look up Vinny Viola, like there are like his story and where he came from, and like it's an unbelievable story to come from not a lot to becoming a very, very, very successful. He's a West Point grad too, by the way. So he's got some great stories. He does so much work in charity and does so much for the military and respecting the people that have served and actually I'm going to say don't quote me, but I'm saying it. I think he was appointed at one point. I don't know if that makes any sense. He was appointed at one point, even though he's from West Point.
Get to the point.
I think
South Point.
I'm trying. I want him to get this right, because if not, he's got a guy. He was appointed by Donald Trump in his cabinet or on his I believe that is factual, and I think he wasn't able to accept. So that's just something. That's just a little nugget that I remember, and but I wish them luck, and that's going to be my pick, Mindframe.
I love it
for the running of the Belmont Stakes on Saturday.
I wanted to go to a few live comments. Joey B, who's a viewer of this show, I could listen to Eddie O talk ponies all day. Love it. Someone said, bet the horse with the smallest jockey. I don't know if that's a sound. I don't know if that's a sound strategy. But Keith Lau had a question: is there a difference in the turf track surface between Belmont and Saratoga?
Well, this race is on the dirt, just so that everybody understands that. So the turf,
it's always in the dirt.
But look, I mean, at Belmont, it is factual. Is that at Belmont, it's a little bit of a sandier base than it is at Saratoga. So that would be the only difference. But a lot of these horses have been able to work over it and be able to train over it. And look at some are look at, I heard you guys talking about pitching matchups and those type of things. Like sometimes, like I just know when I played, like there were some goalies and there were some teams that I was going to have a tough time producing. And then there were other teams, it didn't matter how bad I was playing going into it. I knew if I was going in to play Calgary or St. Louis, I was going to get on the score sheet just because I had that confidence. And it's no different than horses. Sometimes they're horses for courses, and we'll see what horses take to Saratoga. So a lot of them haven't run on it as far as racing. They have trained on it, but I think a very fair question when it comes to the dirt surface at Saratoga compared to Belmont.
All right, Chris Andrews, our sportsbook director here at the South Point, had a question for you. We'll shift to hockey. His question was, does Connor McDavid have to win a Stanley Cup to cement himself in history? No, he doesn't.
No,
okay.
No.
Because he's been that good already.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Frank. And, I think when you look at what Alexander Ovechkin was doing prior to winning the Stanley Cup and then coming up short in the playoffs, I think that's the easy attack on a guy is when he's been so successful. Well, he hasn't won yet. Well, no, that is true. And it probably puts him at a higher level. But when you look at the numbers that Connor has put up in his career to this point in the MVPs, and look at what he's doing in the playoffs right now. It's not going to change my opinion on him. Not that really, matters to anybody, but look at if he ends up winning one at some point, I think people, maybe the average fan or sports fan will look at him a little bit differently. But look at, he's always going to be compared to the greatest of all time, and the greatest of all time for the most part. When you look at the players that have won, whether if you really go back in the day, when you're talking about the guys with the Montreal Canadiens and in the Toronto Maple Leafs back in the day, or most recent with guys like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby and those type of players, all of those guys have won multiple cups. So I think it's a fair question. But for me, he's going to go down for sure as one of the greatest ever play when you look at what he's been able to accomplish to this point. And maybe it gets him in the express lane, so to speak, if he does pull off a cup or two here over his NHL career.
Well, so something that Biz had mentioned once Edmonton had won Game 6 is that McDavid came into the stadium wearing the same suit in Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6. The Oilers didn't touch the conference trophy. The Panthers didn't touch the conference trophy. So superstitions play a huge role in hockey. Did you have any? And what was it?
Yeah, well, Ryan, all due respect, I don't really use that word. I just look at it as routines, like just very much creature of habit. I don't like to use that other word, but I would be shocked if we didn't see Connor McDavid wearing that same suit and combination in Game 1. Now the question is, I think I would know the answer, but I think most people would sit there and go, well, is the guy dry clean the thing at all? And I'm like, You're not dry cleaning. You're not washing. You're not doing anything. You're taking the same route to the airport. You're sitting in the same seat. You're eating the same food. You're bringing your same pillow and blankie. You're doing everything exactly right until the roof falls in, and then you go, okay, well, I can turn either the suit inside out. And by the way, some guys I played with, and then I will say this, is there are probably some people that think I should turn my suits inside out when I'm wearing them on TNT. They might look a little bit better, but you do whatever you have to do. And quick little story, if I can, you talk about routines, Ryan. At one point, I was going for a shared record with the Toronto Maple Leafs back in the late 80s, where I had an 18-game scoring streak. And it ended up tying it with the great, I wasn't able to get to 19. I ended up tying it with the great Darryl Sittler, legend with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Hall of Famer. Since then, Mitch Marner went on a 22 or 23-game heater, and nobody knows who in the hell I am anymore. But at the end of the day, for some reason on the way home, like during the streak, back in Toronto, I got a little hungry on the way home because I wasn't much of a breakfast guy. I'm still not, but I had my meal usually about 1:30-ish, and I would take a nap and then go back to the rink. So one day I figured out, what the hell, I'm going to stop at McDonald's and I'm going to have a vanilla milkshake and a apple pie. So I think that night I had probably 3 or 4 points, and I'm like, oh, geez, you got to keep it going here. So I think for like 14 of the, I don't even know if anybody knows this story, to be honest with you. So Ryan, this is your fault. I'll take it up with your dad at some point here.
Luckily, the machine wasn't broke.
I think for 14 straight games, I think I found myself to every McDonald's in the United States and Canada to make sure at about 11:30 a.m. I was having an apple pie and a vanilla milkshake, and then had my meal. And then I don't know what the hell happened in game 19. Well, I do know what happened in game 19. Yeah, well, no. I did not change. My line mate hit the post a couple of times. I missed an opportunity against the New York Islanders. Ended up being the goalie in that game was Glenn Healy. Glenn Healy was on the team, but he ended up being my teammate a couple of years later with the New York Rangers, and we eventually won the Stanley Cup in '94. But till this day, he always reminds me that his team ended up keeping me off of my my record-breaking streak there. So maybe a primary assist to Mickey D's with the apple pie and vanilla milkshake. So I guess, you know what? I'm Polish. Hold on. I'm Polish and Italian. I'm more Italian, Frank, than I am Polish. But I will say this. When you talk about, apple pie a la mode, I think that's the Polish version of an actual apple pie a la mode, is you go to McDonald's and have the apple pie and the vanilla milkshake like that.
He said it, folks. He's Polish. You can say it. That's an excellent
great.
story.
That's great. Eddie, going to this series, of course, you just saw Edmonton, that whole series against Dallas, and really – on the defensive side of things, where there's always been questions with this group, how is their back end going to hold up? How is their goaltending going to hold up? Stuart Skinner was really good in that series against Dallas, and it really does feel like, Eddie, that he's turned a corner here after getting benched in that Vancouver series. Do you think that that corner's been turned, and how do you think he holds up against a different animal here in the Panthers?
Well, it sure looks like it, Jeff. You're right. They called it a reset. I remember Kenny Albert mentioned during this last series, that he had a reset where he didn't play games 4 and 5 or whatever the numbers were in the Vancouver series. And I jumped right in there and Kenny, look at the guy was playing awful. That's why he was a reset. Like let's say what it is. I mean, he was not playing good, and Calvin Pickard came in and played very well. The one thing I will say is in that series, at times, Dallas had some periods where they were dominating and Stuart Skinner was able to do the job. Dallas finally got to their A game in game 6, and unfortunately for them, it was too little too late. And Stuart Skinner made some really, really good saves and gave his team an opportunity. Look, they only had 10 shots on goal in game 6. Set an NHL record.
That's amazing.
When you look at the situation that they were in, right? They had 2 goals in the first period on only 3 shots. And I said during the broadcast, the third shot that they gave credit to, that came from actually a Dallas stick. So my number said 2 shots, 2 goals. That's a pretty good shooting percentage. But look, getting back to Edmonton, they've proven that they can defend. Now, the series was not as physical against Dallas as it was against Vancouver. Florida is a tough team. They have a bully mentality. They're going to take runs at people. They're going to take penalties. Now, they got to be guarded here. You can't be taking 5 and 6 penalties against Edmonton. They had 4 power play goals in the last 2 games of that series against Dallas. So I've been thoroughly impressed with Dallas. Jeff, you weren't on when I was on the last time with Ryan and Frank. In January, I picked Dallas and Florida to get to the Cup final. I give Edmonton all the props. Like they scored goals when they needed. Their power play got hot. Their goaltender found his game, and they were able to check for the most part all series long. I think they're up against it in this series. I'll be honest with you. When I saw the matchup, the first thing I thought of was I thought that Florida would be minus 135, 140 in the series. I was a little surprised at how low the number was. I was surprised that at some places it was minus 120, 125. I don't know what it's at right now, but I think that Florida has that ability. They can play any way that you want, but long-winded, Jeff. I think Skinner can do it now. He's going to be under siege a little bit more, and it's going to be a little bit more bumping. And like I said, the way that Florida plays, I think they're going to give Edmonton everything that they want physically. I'm expecting a few goals to go into the back of the net in game 1. That's just kind of my gut feeling in that game 1. I just think that there's got a chance to be one of those higher scoring games, so to speak, which these two teams have not played a whole heck of a lot of in this last round that they played in their respective conference finals.
So talking about the paths to the Cup, Florida hasn't had to leave their time zone at all through this playoff run. Mm-hmm. Edmonton has had to go back and forth between the Pacific, the Mountain, and the Central to get here. And now with this being the furthest distance between any championship in North American sports history. Is that going to make a difference for Edmonton having to go forward and back, or are they going to be used to it because they've had to jump back and forth, or how is this going to play out for the travel-wise?
Well, look at with this map here, this globe. It's probably the first time I've seen a globe since I was in 7th grade here growing up in Chicago. But the last time I checked, I think New York to Vancouver is just as long here. Like, I don't know who's doing the adding, but I mean, 30 years ago we went New York, Vancouver, and Vancouver, New York. So that was pretty long too. So maybe I'm showing my stripes here. But look, I will say this: it is long. Go back to the conference finals. They played every other day, right? Rangers, Florida, Edmonton, Dallas. Edmonton, Dallas is every bit of a 4-hour flight. So I mean, you're right, Ryan. I mean, they've had to, they've had to pay the piper, so to speak. The one thing I will say, and it hasn't been talked about a lot, but I've been trying to talk a lot, even though I'm not working, and I'll be a fan watching. There are, if the series goes the distance, if it goes the full Monty to 7 games, the last time I checked, there are 4 2-day breaks in the series. So I don't think it's going to be as taxing as everybody is maybe drawing it up to be.
Right.
Now, if you get a couple of marathon games where you get into double and triple overtime, I don't think there's any doubt that will have an effect. Like, I think that was one of the reasons why Dallas didn't have much in the tank in that series, because they had to go through the gauntlet of Vegas, 7 games.
Yep.
They went through the gauntlet of Colorado, 6 games. And both those teams, Vegas and Colorado, a lot of people felt had a chance to win the Stanley Cup. Right. So it is a big deal, but I think with the breaks that they have built in, I'm not overly concerned because these guys are in incredible shape and they fly very well. And, so I don't think that the travel will have an impact, especially with the 4 2-day breaks. If it gets that long, look, right. I mean, the series could be over in 4 or 5, but that's something to keep an eye on when you are looking at this series in totality and maybe how you might want to get your feet wet, so to speak, in this series.
All right. Now, I don't know if you heard this. We know there's several Eddie's names on the Stanley Cup. There has never been someone named Evan to win a Stanley Cup, and each team has an Evan.
Really?
Yeah, that's something Ryan found.
Yeah.
So this will be the first time the name Evan. Someone named Evan found this out. I can't remember.
Someone named Evan found it out. So between Evan Bouchard and Evan Rodriguez, there will finally be an Evan. On
really?
So who's gonna hoist the Stanley Cup in your opinion?
Well, look, like I said, I picked Dallas and Florida in January. Obviously, Dallas is at home. I think Florida. I just think Florida's a little deeper. They've got the experience, obviously, losing last year to the VGK in the Cup final. So, I'm leaning towards Florida. If you're asking me for a number of games, I'd say 5. Wow, I wouldn't have a problem with saying in 5 games. Wow. But, look at if Florida wears out a path to the penalty box, they're asking for trouble.
Yep.
So, because I think that will allow Edmonton to, so-called hang around. But look nothing would surprise me. You have 2 of the top, 7 players in the league on Edmonton, and Draisaitl, and obviously Connor being number 1. So, but I just think it's Florida's year, and we'll see how it all plays out.
All right, and my last thing, and Ryan and Jeff, if you have anything after this, I was lucky enough, Phil Bork, who played for the Penguins and won the Stanley Cup.
Mad Dog.
He was
my former roommate with the New York Rangers, by the way.
Oh, really? Was Bork?
We played together.
Oh, wow. So he's the best. So I got to know Phil because he used to come to the Funny Bone all the time. Well, our the radio station that I worked at once a week as a guest comic, he brought the cup to our softball game that night on a Monday night. And I have a picture of me. Now, I didn't know this.
Oh, no.
It's me hoisting the Stanley Cup, which I have now found out that you're not supposed to do if you're not a player. Is this is a bad thing that I did? Is that right?
I don't know about that. I mean, you see
in the clear.
Yeah, you see.
I'm
people,
in the clear. Eddie gave me the clear.
I caught grief because I remember the picture I showed the last time
with the horse.
Here, I'll grab it again. Yeah. Hold on a second. Hold on.
This is the same picture. This is
the greatest.
What was the horse's name? Obviously, he'll tell us. I can't remember.
Go for Gin.
I knew it had something to do with alcohol.
Go for Gin and Nick Zito.
There it is.
I caught grief for this.
Right.
So look at Frank. Frank, you want to pick up the Stanley Cup and wear it as a hat? Feel free. I mean,
I'm off the hook. I love it.
So the guy that has the Stanley Cup pretty much, can I do this? Can I eat a little, can I eat a little strawberry and banana ice cream? Yeah, sure, whatever you want. I mean, trust me, whatever you do, I've seen and I've heard a lot worse.
Right.
So just you picking it up is A-okay.
Okay.
You're probably the funniest person that's ever picked it up. I will say that.
Listen, I will take that. Ryan, Jeff, anything to close? This time is valuable. We can't believe that the half hour has gone by this quickly.
No, I just wanted to say thank you, Eddie. Have fun in Saratoga. Hopefully we get the winner on
I can't wait. I'll be there. I'll be there as a fan and looking forward to it. And again, keep an eye on that ultimate daily double there for the Vinny and Teresa Viola there. The 10-horse Mind Frame is the horse that is my pick, and I will be wagering with both hands. I'm just going to let you know. That's how good I feel about the 10 horse.
We're doing it. Tremendous. This is the second time you've come on the show. We really appreciate the time and all the humor. And by the way, yesterday I was watching the Pirate game. They have an outfielder named Edward Olivares, and the announcers called him Eddie O a couple times. And I said, no. You can't do that. In Pittsburgh, there's only one Eddie O that's ever been. Cut that out. I'm going to write Greg Brown, the announcer, and tell him stop that. But
no, Brownie's good. I think that's maybe a little amateur. I mean, I actually got my current nickname, so to speak, my nickname Edzo from Kevin Stevens,
that's
Arthur
right.
Louise. I call him Arthur Louise. So that's a long story, but Artie gave me that name. So most people in the Berg know me as Edzo, and then most people in Chicago, Ryan's dad's hometown, know me as Eddie O. But at least they know me as something. My late mother always said, if they don't know who you are, then you got a problem. So hopefully they still remember me.
Outstanding. Well, we will remember your appearances on this show forever. Thank you so much for doing this.
If you guys get stuck, somebody cancels on you need somebody from the bullpen in the Cup final. You want to talk, just give me a text. Let me know.
Ryan's got the connection. We really appreciate it. And we're going to sign off. I mean, there's nothing else we can do. We'll do Frankie Fungo trivia next time when you're here.
For next week.
And we got some posts we'll do tomorrow, or what?
I think we should do the Fungo.
You want to do the Fungo?
You know what? There's one that we have to do.
Do one. We'll end with one.
We'll end with one. All right, Ryan.
Thank you, Eddie Olczyk. Thank you, Eddie. That was amazing.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching that clip of Punchlines with me, Frank Nicotero. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. We live stream the show Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. And if you want to listen to our podcast, go to your favorite podcast platform. All the details are in the description below. We'll catch you on the next one.